How to tell if you might have adult ADHD. In our hyper-connected world, staying focused isn't easy. But if you really struggle to concentrate, that is, it's a daily or even hourly problem, odds are you've wondered whether you might suffer from ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. For the record, docs don't use the shorter term DD anymore. All cases are diagnosed as ADHD, even if the hyperactivity behavior isn't there. As you might have guessed, there isn't a quick physical test used to screen for the disorder, which is why lots of women go undiagnosed. One 2012 study estimates that only 10% of adults who meet the diagnostic criteria for ADHD have been diagnosed and treated. So how can you tell if you're just overextended, stressed, and distracted, or at risk of having a real disorder? 1. The descriptions below sound like all the time. ADHD in grown women can look a lot different than it does in kids. Because, hey, we know not to blurt out answers in class. But if you're struggling with ADHD as an adult, you may fidget a lot or feel like you can't sit still, make constant careless mistakes at work, have trouble managing your time, struggle to organize, find yourself interrupting people or talking out of turn and without a filter, or feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster, says Patricia Quinn, MD, an ADHD specialist in Washington, D.C. And while we probably all experience those symptoms at some point, people with ADHD feel like that all the time and in multiple settings. So not just at work but at home and in social settings, too. 2. You've always felt this way. While it's possible to first notice these symptoms as an adult, the majority of people with ADHD showed signs as a kid even if they went undiagnosed, says Quinn. Or a lot of people, they've had the behavior problems their whole life but they weren't obvious enough to reach diagnostic criteria, says Quinn. Oh, they've found ways to keep their symptoms under control, like by developing perfectionist personalities or working very hard. But as stress builds up in their lives, they find they can no longer cope, so they finally seek help. 3. Even with the best intentions, you can't get stuff done. Consider this scenario: your boss tells you that your only task today is to clean the clutter off your desk, and there are 0 other stressors or distractions in the way. Most of us should be able to zone in on the task, maybe even develop a new filing system, and get it done. The person with ADHD will get thrown completely off course. They might buy a new plant for their desk and then head out for potting soil, which creates an even bigger mess, says Quinn. 4. You suffered from other mental health issues. A new study from researchers in Toronto found that over a third of women with ADHD also have anxiety disorders, a third have depression, and almost half have seriously considered suicide. Quinn says the results aren't surprising. Undiagnosed ADHD can easily lead to feelings of frustration and low self-esteem. It's demoralizing when everyone else can seem to get their kids off to the school in the morning on time but you just can't get it done, says Quinn. Often, when doctors treat ADHD, they also see anxiety and depression improve. Since ADHD is a neurobiochemical disorder, prescription meds like Ritalin and Adderall, which increase dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain, are most commonly used. Docs also use cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) to help ADHD patients learn to work more efficiently and rewrite those negative scripts that often run through their heads like, "Can never do a project without making careless mistakes." If you think you have ADHD, book an appointment with a specialist who can decide whether or not you fit the diagnostic criteria. The good news is ADHD is highly treatable when a pro sets you on the right course.